everyone, welcome back to Things Lucy Reads. I'm Luce and this is a wrap-up video. I'm going to be talking about all queer books in this wrap-up, except for one actually, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the books are number 76, 78, 84 and 85, and I read those two unofficially for the BookTubeathon, and also 90 that I read this year. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is The Summer Prince by Leah Dawn Johnson, which I gave 4 stars out of 5 to. So this is set in a city called Palmeiras Tres, which is in like a future Brazil, and it's really like futuristic. It is, I can't remember the word for it now, but it's like a pyramid city, like man-made structure, and the city is inside. And every 5 years there is a summer king elected, and at the end of the year he dies and then has to choose the next queen. And then the main character is called June, and she has a best friend Gil, and they both kind of fall in love with the summer king that gets elected, and you know, become friends with him and kind of find out more about the system and how it's kind of broken, and more about some shit that's going on, and obviously, and the city isn't as great and prosperous and perfect as everyone is taught that it is. So that was really, it's really interesting, and it's a really fascinating world, and there was a lot going on, and I feel like I would need to read it again to get a better understanding of the story, but it was so good. And I just, like, not like anything that I've ever read before. It was amazing. Now this is the one that I wouldn't actually class as queer YA. I always see it in lists of queer YA, and I saw someone say that all of the 3 main characters, June and Enki and Gil, are all bisexual, but I disagree on that point actually. June doesn't really show interest in any girls, she only shows interest in Enki. There was this one classmate of hers that maybe something might have happened with if things were different, but she doesn't show any kind of romantic or sexual interest in girls or anyone really except for Enki. So I wouldn't call her bisexual, and since she's the main character in this book is from her point of view, I would not call this a queer book. If you've read this and you came across a part that kind of like explicitly made either her or Gil bisexual, let me know. Maybe I just overlooked it. Anyway, Enki is definitely bisexual. Yeah, and it's been quite a while now since I've read this, and I should have done this wrap up earlier so I could talk about it better, but it was really amazing. It might even be a genius book, but I would have to read it again to know for sure. And I would have to get it in hardcover because this is an awful scholastic paperback. It's very hard to open, it's very hard to hold, it's very creaky and awful, and it's so bad that it actually affected my reading experience. So I'm probably going to buy this again in hardcover, and yes, but it was so good, and I would definitely recommend it. It's, yeah, just definitely read it. It's so like lush and different, so definitely get onto this one. The next book I'm going to talk about I gave 4.5 stars to, and it is Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. It's about this girl called Nancy, and she kind of fell through a door into another world and then had to come back, like was kind of cast out from that world and had to come back. And her parents don't believe her that she actually went to this different world, so she's sent to Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children, which is actually run by a woman who also went to another world and came back, and kind of like collects these children who have been to other worlds and puts them in a place where they are believed and supported, and where they can either find a door back to their world or they can, you know, move on and live in the real world. Nancy is asexual, like on the page canonically asexual, and it's like explained in the text as well what that is for people who don't know, and so that was really good. I'm pretty sure a couple of the other characters were queer. One of them was a trans boy. His story was actually really cool. He went to the Goblin Kingdom and was like a goblin prince there, and was cast out because they wanted and thought they were getting a princess, and they didn't, because he's a prince. He's a boy. So that was just really great. The obvious comparison with this book is with Alice in Wonderland, but there's also a bit of Labyrinth in there, because this guy went to the Goblin Kingdom, and I bought it for a friend recently, and I described it to her as a Daughter of Smoke and Bone plus Coraline with a murder mystery, and I stand by that. Sometimes the worlds are good, sometimes they are bad, but everyone goes to the specific world for a reason, and they have a reason in being there, and they have a reason to come back. And it was just so fascinating. And I did figure out who was committing the murders before it was actually revealed, but that didn't colour my enjoyment of the book at all. And it's going to be a trilogy. I don't know when the next one's coming out, but hopefully it's soon. It's really, really, really good. I would definitely recommend this. It's a very, very well thought out fantasy, very well executed. The plotline is like tight. There's no loose ends that I could detect. Everything is woven together very nicely, and the way everything fits is just so good. And seeing how people fit into their world and the reasons that they fit into the world that they went to were also like really great. And it's so good. I can't say enough good things about this book because it's so good, and everyone should definitely read it, even if just for the ace rep, because that is something that we need more of. Yeah, definitely pick this up. You won't regret it. The next book I'm going to talk about is Two Boys Kissing by David Levithan, which I also gave 4 stars to. So this is about 7 boys. There's Craig and Harry, who are hoping to set the world's record for the longest kiss. They used to go out, but they don't go out anymore. There's Peter and Neil, who are a couple, and Neil is Korean American. There's Avery and Ryan, who meet at a queer prom, and Avery is a trans boy. And then there's Cooper, who is suicidal, actually, in the book. So that's a bit of a trigger warning there. So the boys setting the longest kiss, they also have a friend called Tariq, who was beaten up for being gay, and they're doing this kind of for him because the visibility is going to help. They live in this small town, which is not opposed to homosexuality, but it's not super accepting either. And they're hoping that if they do that, then more people will see that it is okay. So they have to kiss for 36 hours, I believe. And so while they're doing that, everyone else's stories are kind of revolving around this kiss, and they all find out about it and either go to see it or not, but it affects them in some way. And it's just about how people's stories intersect with each other and finding a place in the world. And it is own voices as well. David Levithan is gay, so that helps. Yeah, but it was just really, really enjoyable, and it made me feel things, and it ended really satisfyingly. Even though like bad things happened in the book, no one didn't have a happy ending, so that was nice. Yeah, so I gave it 4 stars and I really enjoyed it. The next book I'm going to talk about, I gave 3 stars to, and it is Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson, which is semi-autobiographical. It's about a girl who is adopted into a super, super evangelical family and raised to be a missionary, but she's gay, and that's like a sin. And she ends up moving out of her house. And I mean, she goes back to visit her mother. It's very much a case of hate the sin, love the sinner, which is a weird mentality, but you kind of understand it in this book. This book was such a letdown for me. I've heard so many good things about Jeanette Winterson, and everyone raves about her, and everyone raves about this. And the first half of the book was so well written, very tightly controlled. Jeanette Winterson was holding all of the threads, and she was in control of all of them, and she knew when each one was moving. And then some point in the middle, it's like she let go. It became messier, a little bit incomprehensible, and the ending was weird. And I just ended up not liking it all that much. Like, I understand that it's important in terms of queer literature. It is an important book, and it wasn't bad. It just was weird. I wrote a little bit about it on Goodreads, which I will link down below. I actually wouldn't recommend this one. After all the people have lauded it, it was weird. It was very, very weird. The last book was a 5-star book, and it's now one of my favorites. It's an Oz YA book. It's called The Sidekicks by Will Kostakis. It's about these 3 boys, Ryan, Harley, and Miles, and they were all best friends with this one boy, Isaac, but then Isaac dies, and they kind of have to find their place in the world and within the friendship group without Isaac, who was the glue that held them together. There's Ryan, who is a swimmer, like an Olympic hopeful kind of swimmer, and he's gay. But he's not out to anyone except for Isaac. There's Harley, who is a little bit of a troubled kid, who used to, you know, have Sunday sessions with Isaac and, you know, wag school a lot, stuff like that. And Miles, who was a bit of a nerd and met Isaac on the first day of school. And it's about how Isaac's death affects them and how everyone's reactions to Isaac's death affects them, and how they all believe that they're not actually friends with each other and they were only just friends with Isaac. But throughout the book, they do kind of find their places with each other and rethink the belief that they're not actually friends. And it was just so nice to have all of these boys represented really realistically. I just really, really love this book, and if you have an opportunity to pick it up, definitely do, because it's one of the best books I've read about high school ever in my life. It's amazing, and I definitely have to read other books by Will Kostakis because he's very, very good. Yeah, and you just really feel for all of these characters, and you get to see their side of the story and who Isaac was to them and how they feel about the other two and how those feelings maybe change or maybe don't, and it's just really, really, really good. So definitely read it. I definitely recommend it. It's fantastic. Those are all of the books that I'm going to talk about in this wrap up. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you thought, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.